there's an interesting condition called agnosia, and this ties in very closely with the whole idea of remote viewing and subconscious processing. Um, the whole idea of the subconscious mind getting all this information, and we're only getting the tip of the iceberg. This whole condition of agnosia, which is experienced by people who have different brain lesions in the brain that may have damaged certain parts of the brains. It's an interesting phenomenon. Sorry, let me just get through my notes here. So, how do we know what's going on under the hood? How do we know there's some kind of subconscious processing going on? Besides the fact that our bodies grow, our cells work, the excretions, the nutrition, all these things are working in our bodies. Let's ignore that for a moment, and let's look at it from a more of a informational perspective. So people with agnosia who have brain damage of different types, there's two different types of agnosia that I'm gonna focus on here. There's apperceptive visual agnosia, and people who have this condition, they have impaired object recognition. So a person who has this condition can't form a percept out of visual information. So in this example over here, there's a drawing of an apple, and a person with apperceptive visual agnosia is asked to copy the image of the apple, and you can see they're unable to look at the picture of the apple and recognize it as an apple, or and reproduce it. But when asked from memory, they can draw something that is akin to an apple. Here's another example with the book. So they can't. Their eyeballs, definitely light is coming into their eyeballs and they're seeing the image, but the whole under the hood subconscious processing part, something's wrong. It's not clicking. It doesn't convert. The information doesn't resonate. Then there's another version of this. This is called associative visual agnosia, and these people have impaired object identification, right? So individuals with associative agnosia, they can't give meaning to a formed percept. So here's a drawing of a key. They're able to repeat the drawing. The person up here couldn't repeat the drawing by looking at it. This person can see the image. They can draw it pretty much exactly the same. But then the faculty inside of them that says, that's a key, or that's a pig, that's a train, that's a bird, that part of them it doesn't kick in. It has no meaning. They're able to draw these pictures, but the picture has no meaning. Someone will have to help them along, and they know what a key is. The person would know what a key is, but they're unable to look at the image of the key and make that connection in their mind that this image is a key. And then we have the whole phenomenon of blind sight or unconscious vision. And this is the ability of people who are cortically blind due to lesions in their primary visual cortex. They're able to respond to visual stimuli that they don't see. And there's some interesting experiments on that you can look up online. Just look up blind sight, unconscious vision. So we're going to move on here to the next slide. So if you meditate on the idea of seeing and observing, you'll understand that these are two different things. There's an old adage that one can look at something and not see it, but it also turns out that one can see something but not observe it. And that's a quote from Ingo Swann there. And it's true. How many times have you thought you saw something, thought you observed something, saw it, and then were asked a question about it, but, you didn't really see it. You didn't really take in all there was to be taken in. This is the whole idea of tangible and intangible sensing. So we have physical perception. Obviously, our physical eyeballs can see physical objects and we can touch them and so on and so forth. But there's another type of perception that goes on along with the physical, and this is the idea of intangible sensing. Now, intangible information is derived from making deductions about what exists. and detecting implications, and that's with or without tangible evidence for them, right? So what do I mean by intangible? So intangible are things you can't touch, things that aren't physical. So like, let's say for example, the idea of love or economics or the ability for something to be stacked on top of each other, like stones, or for the wood to connect at joints and angles. These are things that are deduced in the mind. They're not evident from the physical objects themselves. Looking at a pile of rocks, there's nothing inherent in the physical rocks themselves that would make one realize that, oh, you can build a structure out of these, a beautiful symmetrical structure. Or there's nothing inherently about metal rods that would allow one to realize that they can create a structure out of them. These are things that are detected about physical things, and we have cognitions about them. We become aware. Mental activity happens when we observe objects. Half of it is physical or tangible, and there's another part of it that's intangible, like a piece of art being beautiful. That's something that happens. It's an intangible sense. Do you get what I mean? Hopefully you're following me here with this. So tangible versus intangible sensing. This is the kind of like the other side of sensing that we all do all the time. We all talk about intangible things, and we make intangible observations all the time, but it's not really conscious. We're not really thinking of it in that way.